She was collapsed in the mud, motionless, as the storm rolled in. Knox Wilder hit the brakes. His headlights cut through the rain, and there she was. A woman, soaked, bruised, barely breathing. He ran. Dropped to his knees. "Hey! Can you hear me?" Nothing. Just thunder. Around her neck, a single gold key shimmered in the lightning. He didn't know her name. Didn't know why she was here. But something told him this wasn't an accident. Who is she? What does the key unlock? And why does this storm feel like fate? Don't look away. Everything begins here. The wind screamed through Wilder Hollow like a ghost trying to claw its way free. Trees bent under the weight of the storm. Rain pelted the earth in angry sheets, turning the dirt roads into rivers of mud. Knox Wilder hadn't planned on arriving in the middle of a tempest. But then again, nothing about coming back here had gone according to plan. 14 years gone. 14 years of silence, of skyscrapers and boardrooms and nights that never truly felt like home. Now he was back, summoned by a death certificate and a lawyer's voice that said, "Your father left the entire estate to you. The land, the house. Everything." He gripped the steering wheel tighter, as his black SUV fishtailed slightly on the muddy road leading from the edge of Wilder Hollow toward Quinn's Edge Farm. The sky cracked with lightning. In that brief flash of light, something caught his eye. What the hell is that? A shape. A body. He slammed the brakes. The car skidded sideways and came to a stop, tires hissing against wet gravel. Knox flung the door open and ran, boots sinking into the thick mud. Rain soaked him instantly, but he didn't stop. She was lying face down, unmoving. He knelt beside her. Her hair was tangled and soaked, plastered to pale skin. Blood trickled from her temple. Her dress, ripped. Bare feet, scratched and filthy. Her entire body was trembling, barely. "Hey! Can you hear me?" he shouted, gently turning her over. Her eyes fluttered but didn't open. Her lips were blue. "Shit!" He shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around her as best he could, cradling her against him. That's when he saw it. A delicate gold key hanging from a chain around her neck, glinting faintly through the rain. Not a house key. Older. Ornate. He frowned. Why the hell would someone like her be out here? Alone. In this storm. The woman stirred weakly in his arms, lips parting to whisper something. I. What? What is it? Don't. Let him find me. Then she went limp again. Knox cursed under his breath, lifting her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected. Fragile. Ice cold. "You're not dying out here," he muttered, heading back to the SUV with her cradled against his chest. Not tonight. Wilder Manor rose like a forgotten castle in the distance, barely visible through the curtain of rain. The house loomed, 3 stories of weather-worn stone, shuttered windows, and a past Knox never wanted to face again. But it was the only place he could take her. He kicked the door open and carried her through the threshold. The scent of dust, old wood, and memory hit him like a punch. He laid her gently on the worn leather couch in the parlor, then tossed another log into the fireplace and lit it. Warmth slowly began to fill the room. He pulled a blanket over her, then knelt beside her once more. She was breathing. Faintly. "Who are you?" he thought. "And what are you running from?" He stared at the key around her neck. The firelight danced on its surface, casting strange shadows on the walls. Outside, the storm raged on. But something told him. The real storm had just begun. By morning, the storm had passed, but the tension in the manor was thicker than the fog hanging outside. Knox stood by the kitchen window, watching the mist roll over the fields like a living thing. He hadn't slept. Not a second. His clothes were still damp from the night before, and his coffee had gone cold in his hand. From the parlor, a soft sound broke through the silence. She was awake. He found her sitting up, the blanket wrapped tightly around her shoulders. Her hair was a tangled mess, and her eyes, wide, uncertain, locked onto his as he entered the room. "You passed out in the storm," he said, keeping his voice steady. "I found you on the road near Quinn's Edge." She looked down, fingers brushing the gold key still hanging from her neck. I don't remember." Her voice was barely a whisper. "My name, my home. It's all blank." He studied her carefully. "You said something last night. Don't let him find me." "Who were you talking about?" She blinked, confused. Then fear crept into her expression. "I don't know. I felt like I was running." Before he could press further, the landline rang, an old rotary phone mounted on the wall in the hallway. Knox grabbed it. "Yeah. Knox? It's Sheriff Langley." He recognized the voice immediately. Travis Langley, an old high school classmate turned local lawman. "Did you hear about what happened at Quinn's Edge?" Knox glanced back toward the parlor. "No." "What are you talking about?" "Samuel Quinn was attacked in his house last night. Someone broke in, beat him nearly to death. He's in a coma now. We don't have a suspect, no prints, nothing. But Ivy's missing." Knox felt the floor tilt under him. He turned his gaze back to the woman on the couch. "I think I found her." Sheriff Langley arrived within the hour. A tall, broad man with tired eyes and a badge that looked too small for the weight he carried. Knox led him inside. Ivy, if that was her name, watched warily from the couch. "She doesn't remember anything," Knox explained. "She had this around her neck." He handed Travis the gold key. The sheriff frowned. "That's no regular key. I've seen Samuel wear one just like it before. Said it belonged to an old Wilder Quinn vault. Whatever the hell that means." Ivy shifted uncomfortably. I don't know why I have it. I don't even know who I am." Sheriff Langley knelt beside her. "Ivy, listen to me. You were hurt last night. Your father, Samuel, is in the hospital. He might not wake up. Do you remember anything about what happened?" Her voice trembled. "No. Just flashes. Screaming. And a man in the dark." Travis exchanged a glance with Knox. Something unspoken passed between them. "There's more to this," the sheriff said quietly. "Old stories. Rumors. About your families. Land disputes, buried secrets. I used to think it was small-town paranoia, but now." He looked back at Ivy. "Now I think someone's trying to dig up something that was meant to stay buried." Outside, the wind picked up again, whispering through the cracks of Wilder Manor like the land itself was listening. The afternoon light was grey and heavy, casting long, cold shadows through the tall windows of Wilder Manor. Ivy sat curled on the edge of the old armchair, watching raindrops slide down the glass. Knox had lent her one of his shirts, far too big for her slender frame, and she wore it like armor against the unfamiliar world closing in around her. "This place," she murmured, her fingers tracing the armrest. "I don't know it, but it feels like I've been here before." Knox, standing a few feet away, folded his arms. "That's not exactly comforting." She looked at him, startled. "I mean, considering what happened at Quinn's Edge." He nodded toward the gold key, now resting on the mantelpiece. You show up in the middle of a storm, unconscious, bloody, wearing that thing, right after your father's attacked, and now you're saying you feel connected to this house. Her eyes dropped, shame flickering across her face. I didn't ask to be here, she said softly. I didn't even know who I was when I woke up. He didn't respond. Instead, he turned toward the fire, watching the flames curl and crackle. Something about her unsettled him, not just the mystery, but the way she seemed to fit here, like a forgotten painting pulled from storage and hung back in its rightful place. Later that evening, Dr. Meredith Calloway arrived, her coat damp from the lingering mist. She moved with practiced ease, mid-50s, sharp eyes, and a voice that gave no room for nonsense. Retrograde amnesia, she said after the examination. Likely brought on by trauma. A violent event, emotional overload. It's temporary in most cases, but there's no predicting when, or if, the memories will come back. Ivy sat quietly, holding a cup of tea she hadn't touched. What can you remember? Dr. Calloway asked gently. Nothing clear, she said. But I knew the path behind the manor led to a well. I don't know how. I just knew. That made Knox freeze. He turned, slowly. There's an old well behind the orchard. Nobody's used it in decades. Then why did I dream about it last night? Ivy's voice was barely above a whisper. It was real. I saw it in my mind, stone covered in moss, something buried beneath it. Silence fell over the room. Dr. Calloway finally stood. Trauma often heightens sensory impressions. It's possible she came across it before the attack, and her mind retained that detail. But Knox wasn't convinced. Something about her didn't add up. It wasn't just what she said, it was the way this house responded to her. As if the manor itself recognized her before she even knew who she was. Later, when they were alone again, Ivy looked at him across the crackling fire. You don't trust me, she said, eyes steady. I don't know what to trust, he replied. You show up at the center of a storm that's been building for years. And for all I know, you're just the beginning. She nodded slowly, accepting his suspicion. But even as he said the words, Knox felt the pull again, the one that had started the moment he saw her lying in the mud. It wasn't just guilt. It wasn't pity. It was something older. Deeper. Unsettling. He hated it. The study hadn't changed. Same dust-covered shelves. Same heavy desk carved from dark oak. Same old leather chair his father used to sit in, drinking whiskey in silence while Knox stood at the door, 17 and furious, begging to be heard. Now Edward Wilder was dead. And the silence had grown colder. Knox hadn't meant to linger here. But something about the room felt wrong. Like it had been waiting for him. He moved past the desk, fingers brushing over old books, yellowed papers, unopened letters. That's when he saw it, tucked beneath a stack of ledgers, hidden but not quite. A letter. His name scrawled across the front in his father's unmistakable hand. Knox. Do not ignore this. He hesitated only a moment, then broke the seal. Son. If you're reading this, it means I've finally left this world, and left you with more questions than answers. There's something I never told you. Something I couldn't. Our family's fortune, our land, it was never just about crops and cattle. Beneath Wilder Hollow lies a secret. A source. A sacred underground spring, hidden deep beneath Eldergrove Hollow. It's called the Sanctum Vale. Long ago, our ancestors made a pact with the Quinn family. One would protect the land. The other, the key. Now the balance is breaking. The next guardian has been chosen. She carries the mark. She carries the key. You must protect her. Knox read the letter twice, then again, hands trembling slightly. A sick knot twisted in his stomach. He reached for the old desk drawer. It stuck, then gave with a groan. Inside, an aged journal, the leather binding cracked, initials etched in gold leaf, EP. He opened it, flipping past entries about harvest seasons and local meetings, until he reached a page marked with a faded ribbon. The handwriting changed. Sharper. Urgent. The mark appears only once every generation. Always passed through blood, through fate. The guardian cannot be forced. She must feel the land. Hear it. The gold key is not symbolic. It's real. It unlocks the gate buried beneath Eldergrove. But only she can reach it. Only she will awaken the sanctum veil. Knox shut the journal, heart pounding. Ivy. She had said she felt the land. She knew the well behind the orchard. And that key, the one now resting on the mantel, wasn't just jewelry. It was a key to something real. He moved through the hallway like a man possessed, back to the parlor. Ivy looked up as he entered, sensing the shift in his energy. I found something, he said, voice low. What is it? He crossed the room, placed the letter and journal in front of her. My father knew who you were. Or at least, what you are. She stared at the journal, eyes scanning the pages. Her fingers hovered over the ink like they were drawn to it. This doesn't make sense. It makes more sense than anything else has so far, he said. You were chosen, Ivy. That storm didn't bring you here by accident. She touched the key at her neck. For the first time, it felt heavy. Chosen for what? Knox looked at her, the firelight casting gold across his face. To unlock something buried deep in this land. Something powerful. And maybe something dangerous. Outside, the wind rose again, soft, whispering, as if the land itself had heard her name. The name dropped like a stone into the silence between them. Nolan Vexley. Knox stood by the hearth, jaw tight. He'd just gotten off the phone with a contact in New York, someone who owed him a favor. The moment the name came up, everything began to click into place like rusted gears grinding back to life. Ivy's face paled. I know that name. You should, Knox said. He's not just some corporate parasite. He's dangerous. Wealthy. Obsessive. He threw a thick dossier onto the table. Pages slid free, surveillance photos, building permits, mineral rights documents stamped with Vexley Industries. Beneath them, a satellite image of Eldergrove Hollow, marked with red circles and notes scrawled in all caps, possible Vale entry points. He's been buying up land across the south for years, anywhere with old water tables, spiritual folklore, anything ancient and untouched. But here, he didn't even try to buy. He sent people. Lawyers. Spies. And then, whoever attacked your father. Ivy's voice trembled. Knox nodded. Vexley must have found something in the old records, something that led him straight to Quinn's Edge. When your father didn't give him what he wanted, he made it violent. She turned away, gripping the back of the couch, trying to catch her breath. The fire crackled behind them. Outside, a raven let out a sharp cry, as if echoing the tension. I ran, she said, voice breaking. That night, I saw someone. A man in black. Gloves. No face, just shadows. I ran before he could hurt me like he hurt my father. That's how you ended up in the field, Knox said quietly. Bleeding. Alone. She looked back at him, tears welling but not falling. You believe me now? Knox didn't answer right away. His gaze lingered on her face, so open, so raw. And yet, something about her still felt like a riddle half solved. But yes, he believed her now. I believe Vexley will come back. He crossed the room, pulled a floorboard loose beneath the fireplace. From the hidden space beneath, he drew a weathered lockbox and opened it, revealing a small revolver, a folded deed, and a silver family crest. Then we don't wait for him, Knox said. We get ahead of him. If he's hunting for the Sanctum Veil. He looked at her. Then we find it first. Ivy's eyes dropped to the key around her neck. For the first time, she didn't feel like a victim. She felt like the keeper of something ancient. Something sacred. Something worth fighting for. And somewhere in the shadows, Nolan Vexley watched. Screens lit his darkened office. A photo of Ivy glowed in the center. She has it, he whispered, eyes gleaming. And I will take it from her myself. Dawn broke in amber silence. The storm had passed, but the air still felt thick, like the land itself was holding its breath. Somewhere beyond the fields, hidden by generations of overgrowth and time, lay the truth, Sanctum Veil. And Ivy was the key. We leave in 10, Knox said, strapping a satchel across his chest. Pack light. It's a long walk into Eldergrove, and if Vexley's men are already sniffing around, we'll need to move fast. I'm coming too. Walter Whitmore stood in the doorway, coat already on, a rifle slung across his back. The longtime caretaker of Wilder Manor, his face was weathered like old bark, but his eyes were clear and sharp. I buried secrets with your father, Mr. Knox, Walter said quietly. If they are rising now, I won't let you face them alone. Knox nodded once. No arguments. The deeper they moved into the grove, the quieter everything became. Eldergrove Hollow wasn't on any modern map. You had to know the land, how to listen to it breathe. The trees grew denser, twisted into shapes that blocked out the sun, and the path beneath their feet turned from soil to stone to something older, ancient. The wind carried no birdsong. Only memory. Ivy paused suddenly. It's here, she whispered. Knox turned. What do you mean? I don't know. I just feel it. Like the ground's humming. Like I've stepped into something that remembers me. Walter narrowed his eyes. We're close. If the stories are true, the Oathstone should be just ahead. They pushed through the thickets and then, it was there. A clearing. At the center, a great stone, half buried and moss-covered, carved with symbols so old they seemed to shift when you looked at them too long. It radiated stillness. Power. Ivy stepped forward, drawn as if by an invisible thread. She knelt beside the stone, brushing away leaves and dirt. Her hand hovered above it. And then, light. A soft, golden glow burst from her wrist. Glowing veins of light unfurled up her arm like vines, blooming just beneath her skin. The stone responded in kind, pulsing faintly with the same hue. What the hell? Knox muttered, eyes wide. Ivy gasped. Visions. Flashes. A woman in white, generations past. A blade dipped in the sacred spring. The symbol etched into her family crest. The key, passed from mother to daughter. The words, you are the keeper. The land remembers. Her eyes snapped open. I've been here before, she whispered. In another life. Or maybe. In this one, long ago. Walter dropped to one knee beside the stone, his voice almost reverent. The Oathstone only answers to the Guardian. There's no denying it now. Knox stared at Ivy like he was seeing her for the first time. Something shifted in his chest, a weight, maybe or something closer to fear. You're the one they were waiting for, he said quietly. The veil. It's calling you. From the shadows beyond the grove, something stirred. The earth was awakening. And it would not wait quietly for long. They never heard him coming. One moment, the oath stone pulsed with a soft glow beneath Ivy's hand. The next. Crack! A gunshot split the air, shattering the silence like glass. Down. Nox grabbed Ivy and pulled her behind the stone, just as a bullet ricocheted off its ancient surface. From the tree line, shadows emerged. Men in tactical gear, faces covered, weapons drawn. And at the center of them, calm, cruel, and smiling, stood Nolan Vexley. "We meet at last," he said, stepping into the clearing like he owned it. "Ms. Quinn. Or should I say, Keeper?" Ivy's breath caught. "You followed us," she whispered. "I didn't need to," Nolan replied, his voice cold and smooth. "I simply let the key lead me. And now, here you are. Exactly where you're supposed to be." Nox stood, gun in hand, teeth clenched. "You're not getting anywhere near her." "Don't be dramatic, Nox. This is a transaction. She opens the gate, I take what's mine, and nobody else has to die." "It doesn't belong to you," Walter growled, stepping forward, rifle raised. "Oh, but it does," Nolan sneered. "You think the world needs ancient springs and mythical guardians? No. It needs clean, bottled control. And I'm the man to sell it." He raised his hand. One of the men stepped forward, aiming directly at Ivy. "Enough stalling. Open the gate." Ivy's heart pounded. Her wrist was still glowing, brighter now, responding to the stone, to the threat. To truth. "I don't know how." "Yes, you do." Nox barked, not at her, but to awaken something in her. "You felt it. The land remembers you. So remember it back." Bullets tore into the dirt as chaos erupted. Walter fired first, dropping one of Nolan's men. Nox dove behind a fallen log, exchanging fire with another. The clearing became a battleground, mud, bark, stone, blood. Ivy crouched behind the oath stone, trembling. Then the light spread. From her wrist, up her arm, across her chest, down to her fingertips. Her skin shimmered with ancient symbols, as if something beneath it had finally been unlocked. She stood. The wind shifted. Leaves spiraled upward. The very air bent around her. "Stop." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried, cutting through the gunfire like thunder. Everyone froze. Even Nolan. Ivy stepped forward, hand outstretched. "You want the gate," she said, eyes glowing gold. "Then watch it close forever." She pressed her palm to the oath stone. A deep rumble shook the grove. The stone lit up, the earth beneath their feet cracked open. Vines burst from the soil like living chains, wrapping around Nolan's men, yanking their weapons away. Nolan staggered back, stunned. "What is this?" "It's the land," Walter whispered, in awe. "It's fighting back." The stone split, revealing a spiraling sigil beneath it, ancient, luminous, alive. And at the center, a carved recess. Shaped exactly like the golden key. Ivy reached for it, the light now streaming from her like a beacon. Behind her, Nox stood guard, blood on his sleeve, fury in his eyes. "Do it," he said. And she did. The key slid into place with a sound that felt like thunder being swallowed. A soft click, then silence. For a breathless second, nothing happened. Then the oath stone began to shift, rumbling as ancient mechanisms long forgotten groaned awake. The ground cracked open in a perfect circle, revealing a spiral staircase carved into glowing stone. And at the bottom, light. A pool of water, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ethereal. Alive. It shimmered in colors no language could name. "Sanctum Veil," Walter whispered, eyes wide. "It's real." Ivy descended first, drawn by a force deeper than instinct. She stepped into the chamber, the symbols on her skin glowing in rhythm with the spring. She knelt beside the water. It radiated warmth, power, and something older than memory itself. She wasn't afraid. She dipped her fingers into it. And the entire chamber responded. Vines blossomed across the stone walls. Glyphs illuminated. A pulse surged through the floor like a living drumbeat. The spring recognized her. Behind them, the chaos hadn't ended. Nolan wasn't done. He broke free from the roots holding him down and lunged at Walter, rage burning through him like acid. "You think this is over?" he roared, striking wildly. "That spring belongs to the world." "No," Knox growled, slamming his shoulder into Nolan and tackling him to the ground. "It belongs to the land. And she belongs to it." The two men grappled in the dirt, fists flying. Nolan landed a hit, blood spilled. Knox hit back harder. "You destroyed her family," Knox growled. "You tried to poison this place." Walter stepped in, rifle raised, not to shoot, but to end it. "Enough." Nolan slumped under Knox's weight, finally still. Just then, sirens howled in the distance, Sheriff Langley, following Knox's earlier coordinates. Justice was on its way. Knox stood, breath ragged. Blood ran from a cut on his cheek. "Get him out of here," he told Walter. Then he turned and descended into the chamber, just as Ivy stood beside the spring, both hands hovering above the water. "It showed me things," she said, voice distant. "What happens when power falls into the wrong hands? What it costs. So we lock it away," Knox said. "For good." She nodded, reached behind her neck, and removed the key. "From now on, only a true keeper can find this place." She placed the key into the pedestal beside the spring. A surge of wind filled the chamber. The walls pulsed. The staircase behind them began to seal shut, stone curling upward like a closing mouth. The sanctum veil glowed, then faded into stillness, its entrance hidden once more beneath the roots of Eldergrove Hollow. 3 days later, headlines spoke of a corporate scandal. Nolan Vexley, arrested on charges of assault, illegal land acquisition, and conspiracy. But no one mentioned the spring. No one spoke of the veil. Because it no longer belonged to the world. Under a rising sun, Knox and Ivy stood on the porch of Wilder Manor, the land stretching out in golden silence before them. "The Wilder Quinn Legacy Trust," Ivy read from the new plaque. "Preserving ecological treasures for future generations." Knox smiled. "Sounds boring." "It'll keep them away. It'll protect it." She turned to him, hand brushing his. "We protect it. Together." He met her gaze. "Always." And beneath their feet, deep in the earth, the veil pulsed, waiting, watching, safe. Summer came early to Wilder Hollow that year. The land had begun to breathe again. Wildflowers returned to the orchard. The soil, once cracked and weary, felt alive beneath every step. And somewhere deep beneath it all, the sanctum veil slept in peace, guarded, sealed, and whole. Knox stood on the porch of the manor, sleeves rolled up, hands covered in dirt. Below, in the fields stretching toward Quinn's Edge, workers were clearing out the old irrigation lines, laying the foundation for a more sustainable farm. "You're getting good at this," Ivy called from behind him. He turned. She was dressed in worn jeans, boots caked in mud, hair tied back in a loose braid. Sunlight danced across her skin as if it belonged there. "You make it look easy," he replied, smiling. "It's not," she said, joining him at the railing. "But it feels." Right? He nodded, eyes scanning the horizon. 14 years I spent trying to outrun this place, Knox murmured. Turns out all I needed was a reason to stay. She looked at him, something soft flickering behind her eyes. And now? He reached for her hand. Now I can't imagine leaving. Weeks had passed since the veil was sealed, but the bond it forged between them only grew stronger. Ivy had stepped into her role as the keeper, not just in title, but in purpose. She understood the rhythm of the land, the silence beneath its breath. And Knox, once a man of boardrooms and deadlines, now spent his mornings tending to soil and sky. They worked side by side, reviving Quinn's Edge Farm, repairing barns, rebuilding trust among the locals. Wilder Hollow has always been a place of legacy, Ivy said one evening as they walked the fields, the golden hour painting everything in honeyed light. But legacy isn't just inheritance. It's choice. It's what we decide to protect, and who we choose to become. Knox glanced at her, a rare softness in his eyes. Then I choose this. She squeezed his hand. So do I. Under the stars that night, the two stood in silence at the edge of Eldergrove Hollow, where a new wooden arch now marked sacred ground. Protected by the Wilder Quinn Legacy Trust. For the land. For the future. Ivy rested her head against Knox's shoulder. We started as strangers. Not anymore. And somewhere far beneath them, the spring pulsed gently, alive, ancient, and safe in the hands of those who had finally found their way home. Wilder Hollow was no longer just a dot on a map. Over the months that followed the storm, the Wilder Quinn Legacy Trust grew from a quiet conservation initiative into a model of sustainable preservation. Academics, scientists, and environmentalists came from all over the country, drawn in by the rumors of a thriving ecosystem revitalized seemingly overnight. But no matter how many arrived, none of them ever found the spring. And they never would. Because Sanctum Vale wasn't just hidden by stone and earth, it was protected by lineage, sealed by intention, and guarded by the bond between keeper and land. Ivy, now fully embraced by her role, led with quiet strength. She organized restoration efforts across Wilder Hollow and Quinn's Edge, using the land's natural rhythms to heal instead of harvest. Each month, she drew only a small amount of water from the spring, just enough to infuse into treatments for soil regeneration, rare crop preservation, and even medicinal trials that aided rural clinics nearby. But never more than what the land offered freely. We give what we can, she often said, but we never take what isn't ours. The results were miraculous. Yields rose. Forests thickened. Wildlife returned. Yet still, no one outside the trust could explain it. There's no scientific basis for this, one ecologist muttered during a televised interview. But something in that valley is alive in a way I've never seen before. Ivy watched that interview with a faint smile. She didn't need the world to understand it. She only needed to protect it. At the center of the trust's new visitor center stood a single phrase, carved in old oak. Let the land speak. And we shall listen. And beneath it, locked away in stone and root, the Sanctum Vale pulsed in silence, untouched, eternal, and still choosing who was worthy. It started as a tingle, barely noticeable at first. Knox was walking the orchard paths alone, twilight sinking low over Wilder Hollow. Ivy was still at the trust headquarters, reviewing a proposal for a new forest corridor. He'd promised to meet her by sundown. As the wind stirred the tall grasses, Knox paused. A warmth pulsed at his wrist. He rolled up his sleeve, brow furrowed. There, beneath the skin, faint at first, but growing brighter, was a line of golden light. Not a burn. Not a wound. A mark. The same glow he'd seen that night in Eldergrove Hollow, when Ivy had stepped into her legacy. It now lived in him. What the hell, he murmured. But deep down, he already knew. The veil had chosen him too. Not in defiance of Ivy, but in unity. The land didn't separate the protector from the keeper. It was choosing both. Together. That evening, he found her waiting at the top of the hill, where the fields met the edge of the woods. The sun dipped low behind her, casting her silhouette in gold. Ivy turned as he approached, and before he could say a word, her eyes dropped to his wrist. She smiled. So. It's begun. Knox stood beside her, letting the silence speak first. Then. It chose me. No, she corrected gently, lacing her fingers with his. It chose us. They stood hand in hand, watching the last light of day bleed into the sky. The horizon stretched wide, open, and infinite. Beneath their feet, generations slept in the soil. And before them, a future no longer haunted by secrets, but guided by purpose. Together, they would guard it. Together, they would grow it. Wilder Hollow had found its voice again. And its keepers would never leave its side. It began with a storm. A man returning to a home he tried to forget. A woman running from a past she couldn't remember. Fate didn't ask their permission. It simply brought them together. In the heart of Wilder Hollow, beneath centuries of silence, they unearthed more than a spring. They uncovered legacy, memory, truth, and a sacred power older than time, meant not to be owned, but honored. Through danger and doubt, they found not just who they were, but who they were meant to be. Two strangers became guardians. Two souls became one promise. To protect something more precious than gold. The living breath of the land. The spirit of a family. The source of life itself. And so, the hollow endures. Watched over. Kept. Loved. Forever. Some storms don't destroy. They reveal what was always meant to be found.